true to form, she hangs out in an area for a couple of days, makes a mess, then she'll move on to find someplace else to make a mess. I also mentioned that she got into some Chinese food leftovers last night. Yeah. She made a mess. Yeah. I'm not going to go into details on that mess, but let's just say cleaning it wasn't fun. Oh dear, hopefully not as many problems with today's video as I have been having lately. What can I say? The universe hates me. But that's okay. Oh, and I had the most awesome problem yesterday. Is when I went to look at the videos after I pulled the memory card out of the camera, put it in the computer, I could play the videos, but I'd have no video, and all I'd have was audio. And I'm like, what the? And then I remember, oh yeah, I updated some drivers today. I haven't restarted yet. So I restarted the computer and still had the problem. I'm like, you're kidding me. So, restored to an earlier date, got my old drivers back, and it all worked fine. And I'm like, really, guys? Really? Wow, yeah, new codec, new video codecs. What do? They screw everything up. And you know what, kids? The lesson here is not, I repeat, not never update your drivers because your stuff will stop working. That is not the moral of that little story. Because sometimes if you don't update your drivers, your stuff will stop working. I've had that problem before too. No, the moral of this story is make restore points. Because if I didn't have that restore point, I would have been SOL. So, Planeshift. White cards. Starting off slow. Honorable Scouts. He's a 1/1 for 1, not far from fantastic. When he hits the board, you gain 2 life for each black and or red creature target opponent controls. It's okay. It's far from great, though he can be used for some combo-licious life gain. Got Pollen Remedy, it's white. It's got a kicker of sacrificing a land. Prevent the next 3 damage that will be dealt this turn to any number of target creatures and or players, divided as you choose. If you paid the kicker cost, it's 6 instead. You know what? It can screw up people's math in combat. It really can. But yeah, beyond that, I guess it's neat. Aura Blast, Colorless White, instant, destroy enchantment, draw a card. It's alright. I mean, for the same casting cost as a disenchant, you get half as many targets. Generally losing the better half of the targets most of the time. But you get a draw card effect out of it, so I've seen worse. That's an interesting way to go about it. So I just had a thought on this. Imprint an Aura Blast on an Isochron Scepter, and then just keep using it to nuke your own Rancor. For those who don't remember, Rancor is a single green for a creature enchantment that gives enchanted creature +2/+0 and trample, and when it goes to the graveyard, when the enchantment goes to graveyard from play, return it to your hand. So it's just like, I play Rancor, swing with my creature maybe. I use Isochron Scepter to cast Aura Blast to kill Rancor. I draw a card. That's one way to get that's one way to get card draw, right? Heroic Defiance. Calls in a red. Enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +3 if it shares a color with the most common color amongst permanents, or is tied for. Now this is the exact opposite of the debuff effect on the cycle of Djinns from Invasion. So that's kind of funky. Kind of funky. Samite Pilgrim, tap, prevent damage based on domain. Base number of basic land types you control. It's kind of interesting. In a way, it's surprising that we did not see that in Invasion itself. What can I say? Maybe they ran out of space. These things happen. The familiar cycle, I covered these guys before. The white familiar is a colorless and a white for a 0/3. It's a wall. Reduces the casting cost of green and blue spells by a colorless. For those of you who don't know, and I'm hoping it's not many, but it's a common question whenever for new players when they see it. If you see a card that says reduced casting cost by so much colorless, that does not affect the colored mana in a card. So as a level example, if you had one of these on the board and you went to try to cast a green spell that only cost 1 mana, it wouldn't affect it because it only reduces colorless costs. Kid science, fun stuff. On the other hand, one of the common questions is if you imprint an artifact or a creature onto a semblance anvil, and therefore reduce the cost of the appropriate casting cost of the appropriate permanents by up to 2 colorless, can you cast the really huge mirror? I can't even remember what its name is. Crap, I can't remember what he's called, but he's a reasonably big body for 2 colorless. He's an artifact creature mirror, and he says that when you cast him, you may his mana cost may only be paid for by mana generated by creatures. Exactly. So that's a common question. It's like, yeah, if I reduce his casting cost, can I just play him for free without, using creature-based mana? And the answer is absolutely. You have to pay 0 mana. That 0 mana must be generated by creatures. How do you generate 0 mana with creatures? Really easy. You don't. Disciple of Kangi. He's a 2 colorless and a white for a 2/2. Blue and tap. Target creature gains flying and becomes blue until end of turn. The color change is an interesting caveat on that. I find that kind of funky. But more often he's just plain useful to make your dudes fly. With almost no restrictions on what he can make flying. Denaria's Judgment. Now here's an interesting one. It's 2 colorless and a white. It's an instant. Now you can see there, that's a lot of text. The text actually has a pretty simple effect. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain protection from white if you control a plains, protection from red if you control a mountain, protection from black if you control a swamp. Are you seeing where this is going, guys? Do I have to say the whole thing? Well, I shouldn't have to, and I'm not going to. And it's a funky little card. And I only own 3 of them, apparently. Hobble. Hobble's an interesting one. It appears to have either the worst illustration I've ever seen for Lord Windgrace on it, or just a really screwed up looking Panther Warrior. I don't know. Who's the artist? Alan Pollock. I don't know if he did a lot, how long he's been doing magic art, or how many cards he's illustrated. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I've seen his stuff on other cards before too, just looking at it, and the style looks vaguely familiar, so I don't know. I mean, honestly, other than the screwed up looking Cat Warrior, it doesn't look too bad. When it comes into play, you draw a card. The enchanted creature can't attack. It's a creature enchantment. And if the creature is black, can't block either. more important for shutting down your opponent's offense than the card draw. Flash Knife Barrier. This is a card that I drafted a lot. Probably overdrafted, but it's got a funky effect. It's 2 colors and a white. When it comes to play, you draw a card. It's a straight up enchantment. If a source would deal damage to a creature you control, it deals that much damage, -1. So, I had absolutely no qualms about loading up on Lash Knife Barriers in a draft deck. You're just saying, what are you doing to my creatures? What are you doing to my creatures? What are you doing to my creatures? Oh, that's right, you're doing nothing. Unfortunately, in practical application, it really worked as well as I wanted it to. Planeswalker's Mirth. There was a cycle of Planeswalkers fill in the blank. There'd be things like Planeswalker Scorn and Planeswalkers, I think Ire was one of them. I can't remember. But here we have Planeswalker's Mirth. It's 2 colorless and a white, straight up enchantment. 3 colors and a white. Target opponent reveals a card at random from their hand, gain life equal to the card's mana cost. Kind of funky. Samite Elder. Here's an interesting one. 2 colors and a white for 1/2. Tap. Creatures you control gain protection from the colors of target permanent you control until end of turn. That's funky. The White Battle Mage. I've mentioned the cycle of Battle Mages before. The white one wasn't really fantastic in any way, shape, or form. Like all of them, it was 2 colors and a white for a 2/2. The green kicker was a colors and a green, and you nuked a flying creature. All well and good. It was mostly useful for the blue kicker, which was 2 colors and a blue, and that got you 2 cards. That's not bad. Yeah, hold on, it's a slightly overcosted 2/2 creature with a divination built into it if you want it. I don't know, it's not too bad. Aurora Griffin, it's a 2/2 flyer. You pump white mana, target permanent becomes white till end of turn. It's interesting. Kind of like it. Plus you have a way to nuke white permanents. That guy's badass. I'll make your land white. I'll nuke it. Goodbye. Guard Dogs. Now here's a card that you could play wrong so easily. Because, I'll be perfectly honest, I was looking at it as I was sorting it over. Or, I don't even remember you. What do? You do what? Hold on, let me reread that. Okay. One more time just to make sure I got it. Alright. Alright. 3 colors and a white for a 2/2. 2 colors tap. Choose a permanent you control. Prevent all combat damage. Target creature would deal this turn if it shares a color with that permanent. So, you tap him. You choose any card on the board that is under your control. And then you prevent all damage that target creature would deal this turn. So, if it shares a color with the permanent you selected. Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be a cleaner way to phrase that. But hey, it is what it is. Surprise deployment. Here's an interesting one. 3 colors and a white for an instant. Play only during combat. Put a non-white creature from your hand into play. At end of turn, return to hand. That is, return the creature to your hand. It's interesting. It's funky. It's a surprise blocker out. Maybe even one that you normally wouldn't be able to cast yet. But yeah, it does funk. And very abusable if you have a... very abusable if you have a creature with a nasty comes into play ability. It's like, yeah, I'll surprise deployment this Flame Tongue Kavu, get rid of that, and it comes back, and end of turn it comes back to my hand. Next turn I'll play the Flame Tongue Kavu and kill something else. We'll get the Flame Tongue Kavu, don't worry about it, guys. Let me tell you about those things, Flame Tongue Kavu. For thick-skulled, dim-witted genetic mutants, they've got pretty good aim. Voice of all. Ain't she pretty? Gotta love a woman with rainbow wings and battle axes. She's a 2/2 flyer for 2 and double white, which makes her slightly more expensive to cast than any other angel in the All series. Oh, the Voice series. All of the other voices were 3 colors and a white, and had protection from a specific color. And some funky flavor text. She doesn't have flavor text. But she's a 2/2 flyer for 2 and double white. As she comes into play, choose a color. She has protection from that color. She's voice of whatever the hate you need right now. That's funk. March of Souls. I had some extras. They're going in the trade binder, because it's a funky card. 4 colors and a white. Sorcery. Destroy all creatures. No regeneration. Replace them all with 1/1 white flying spirit tokens. There are so many ways to abuse the hay out of that too. I mean, it's just like, yeah, they're all token creatures. So what? Who cares? Now, if you really want to screw people up, have something in play that punishes them whenever a creature goes to their graveyard from play. Like, oh, I don't know, Dingus Staff, for example. For those that don't know, Dingus Staff, 4 colorless artifact. Whenever a creature goes to the graveyard from play, that creature's controller takes 2 damage from Dingus Staff. Dingus Staff does. Bleh. Try that again. Dingus Staff deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. There we go. So, for example, you can blop, March of Souls. Yeah. Now you got all these 1/1 token dudes. Let's play something that, I don't know, deals 1 damage to everything. Sure, well, March of Souls. Blah. You took how much damage? Oh, you're down to half your life? Cool. Pyroclasm. I don't care if I'm dead too. I'm taking you with me. Taking you with me. Wow. Alright. Need both hands to do that. Box is almost empty. It's sliding all over the place. I'll get back to that. Alright, tomorrow I'll try to knock out 2 colors. Going for green and red. Yeah, as you can see, I moved cards around a little bit because Kat decided she wanted to be up over here. And she was running through this area a lot and knocking stuff all over the place because she's a cat, and that's what cats do. Ain't that right, Cat? Sit there, ignore me. Are you even awake? Are you asleep? No, she's awake enough to know I'm talking to her. And of course, being a cat, she don't care. She don't care. All right, call that an update. See you tomorrow, guys.